Well, the Biden administration is actively trying to cover up and hide the dumbest and most reckless decision by any president in modern American history, the decision to destroy the Nord Stream pipeline, as Russia now says war with the United States is very close. Thanks, President Biden. And the head of NATO just said the quiet part out loud, admitting that the war started back in 2014. And back then, NATO started training Ukrainian soldiers.
The war started in 2014. And since 2014, NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine.
So much for your unprovoked war propaganda that you've been spreading over the past few months. So, over the past week, the Biden administration has tried to create a panic in the United States in order to distract all of us from Biden's dumbass move on destroying the Nord Stream pipeline, which could push us into an energy Armageddon, the likes of which we've never seen before. And by the way, there is growing evidence that we are heading for absolute calamity of historic proportions in the West and Western governments that would far surpass that energy crisis that Europe experienced back in 2014. Back then, when natural gas prices skyrocketed, blackouts occurred all over Europe, and back then, no pipeline was destroyed. This is way worse now. But you could just ask the people of Bulgaria what 2014 and their energy crisis was like. The answer for them? People froze to death because they didn't have natural gas to heat their homes. Ask the people of Slovakia what 2014 was like. They declared a state of emergency in that country. We have new data out today showing just how bad the energy problem actually is in 2023, not only in Europe, but in the United States. And we're going to look at two main contributors to this disaster. These are man-made contributions to this disaster. Number one, the Nord Stream act of terrorism by the United States. Number two, the globalists' push for a Green New Deal to eliminate fossil fuels or hydrocarbons, whatever you want to call them. Both of these are man-made crises, and the globalists who want all of us to get off fossil fuels are absolutely thrilled about it. Absolutely thrilled about it. All of this, of course, is converging into a perfect storm for the West. And that's what we are starting to see. We are starting to see a rise in the sales of normal people buying up pre-made meal kits. You know, those meals that typically only preppers buy? Yeah, it's not just preppers. Which, by the way, we shouldn't be calling them preppers. These are people who are smart, by the way. Now, average families that have never even thought about buying meals to store in the garage before are doing it. Food shortages are real, and so too is this energy crisis, with energy experts just issuing a red alert warning about America's fuel reserves. They're trying to play it down, but it's there. They're nearly empty in every category, from diesel reserves to natural gas reserves. And oh, by the way, we pull back on actual natural gas production in the United States. So you think you could draw a line between the two of these? Of course you can. And due to those skyrocketing food prices and those food shortages, this week the Wall Street Journal had the guts to say this in a new piece that they just published. They want you to skip breakfast in order to save money. Yeah, they really actually published that in the Wall Street Journal. Talk about elitism, right? Well, now we know in the hours following that bombshell report by legendary reporter Seymour Hersh, the Biden administration authorized the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline. The deep state, with the help of the mainstream media, mobilized and snapped to attention like obedient dogs. They brought us a brilliant cover story to start to instill panic in all of us.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It has happened again today. Another aerial object was shot down by U.S. warplanes.
Tonight, the growing mystery and the race to recover those unidentified objects shot down by U.S. fighter jets.
Yes, UFOs and balloons are invading the United States. Well, as NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden pointed out, this balloon UFO story was all in an effort to distract us from the real story. The real story is the Nord Stream pipeline and the fallout that is now unfolding before our eyes. This is one of the biggest stories of all time. Here's what Snowden said about it. It's not aliens. I wish it were aliens, but it's not aliens, he says. It's just the old engineered panic, an attractive nuisance ensuring national security reporters get assigned to investigate balloon bullshit rather than budgets or bombings, a la the Nord Stream pipeline. Until next time, yes, an elaborate lie constructed by the deep state. Do you remember, of course, Mike Pompeo, former head of the CIA, actively saying this about how they teach people to lie at the CIA?
What's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
Yeah, do you feel used by this UFO balloon story? You should, because they're using us, and they hope that you're too stupid to do your own homework. The truth is, Biden overplayed his hand here, pushing Europe to dramatically recalibrate its abusive relationship with America. And I'm seeing it in newspapers across Europe. Now Europe faces an energy crisis, not this year, but next year. The real numbers show us that next year things will be a disaster for Europe. As Zero Hedge reports, the race to secure natural gas and fuel for the winter of 2023 into 2024 hasn't even started yet. With virtually non-existent supplies, Europe is heading for a disaster. It writes, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, just issued an alert admitting that the crisis in Europe will hit all countries, not just Germany. Remember, energy prices have skyrocketed and people can't afford to pay their bills, so they're turning off the heat right now. Businesses have closed their doors. Here's the latest data. Take a look at this. This is unbelievable. Fuel oil up 27%. Gas, utilities, 26%. Transportation up 14%. Electricity, 11%. Food at home, not even going out to eat, up 11%. Food away from home, 8%. And the list goes on and on from there. And we learned this week that the energy crisis is actually much worse than we've been hearing, because the European Union, get this, spent nearly 800 billion euros trying to hide the real problem from all of us. That's right, the EU forked over that amount of money to try and hide or shield us from the real problems. And Germany spent nearly $300 billion on this hide the salami program. Now, Seymour Hersh now says the reason that Biden blew up the pipeline was to force Germany into submission, he said in an interview, to keep Germany under our thumb in order to keep them in the war in Ukraine. Listen.
Here's what Biden did, and this is what I think the ultimate point of the story, and why so many people, even the intelligence community, are very troubled by it. What he did is he said, I'm in a big war with Ukraine. It's not looking good. I want to be sure I get German and West European support. And I know winter's coming, and if it's going to be bad, I don't want the Germans to say we got to check out because we're getting massacred. We'll be massacred with no cheap fuel, and our economy will go bonkers. We're going to check out, and we're going to open up the gas line, which they could do. So he took away that option.
So this was our plan, that Germany was going to be backing off the war in Ukraine, and the United States was getting nervous that they were going to do that and weaken our hands, so we blew up their pipeline. This morning, we learned now that Germany is now taking steps towards a full investigation of this pipeline explosion, and a growing chorus of German politicians are furious that a NATO ally would blow up their main source of fuel and then charge that same ally 5 times the price to receive natural gas from America. Jim Rickards, the former CIA and Pentagon advisor turned soothsayer and also the author of the great book Road to Ruin, said this week that he believes we have less than 70 days before we hit total chaos in energy supplies and food supplies. The data is pointing in this direction. It's not alarmism, and I hope Jim is absolutely wrong, but the sad part is that he's always right. Just read his books and you'll see how he's been right over and over and over again. I don't like to bet against Jim. So add to the pipeline mistake with another man-made mistake. The WEF pushed to eliminate fossil fuels in the West, and you have a recipe for total disaster. This week, almost like it's a joke, the European Union announced they're going to get rid of combustion engine cars by the year 2035, 12 years from now, and gas-powered trucks by the year 2040. Are they nuts? The answer is yes, they are. You've closed down nuclear power plants, and now you're scrambling to reopen nuclear power plants. You're trying to push us all towards solar and wind, which don't work. You have no oil and gas in Europe that you produce. You're heavily reliant on foreign energy sources to power your economies and meet the daily energy needs of its citizens, and you're shutting it all down. Even some EU members are calling it madness, and they're warning that there is no escaping it. Take a look at these headlines. I mean, they've literally committed to this madness. And it's almost like they need to have this collapse in order to prove that it all won't work. Just chew on all of this. As your government leaders lie straight to your face, it's incumbent upon all of us to protect our own families right now and not listen to these lying politicians. So that's the news update part of this video. Now I want to tell you about today's sponsor for this video, which is a company that can help alleviate some of those energy crisis in a big, big way. I'm a big believer in this company. This company is called F3. They're a uranium producer. And if you're an investor like me, you're going to be blown away by what they just discovered. And I'm going to show you their chart right now, their stock chart. It's unbelievable. And literally no one knows about it. Industry insiders know all about this right now. The people in this business, the retail trader, anyone else does not know about this. The average retail investor have no clue what they're about to see and why this stock price could skyrocket over the next few weeks and months because of this. And once all of these retail investors learn about this, again, the stock could explode. So here's the company, F3. That's the name of their company. Here is their stock ticker. Now, they just found one of the highest grade uranium deposits in the world. So the day after they discovered this deposit, mining legend Eric Sprott got on the phone with the company, bought millions of dollars of shares, and he's continuing to buy more as we speak. They discovered this deposit in one of the hottest uranium spots in Canada, which is the Athabasca Basin. You've heard me talk about this area on this show before. If you've been watching my show for many, many years, you know how this is one of the hottest spots in the world. This will dramatically help us get away from China and Russian production of uranium. And if Russia shuts off that switch because of moving to all-out war, and now we have no cheap natural gas from Russia, no oil coming from Russia, the final thing that's still flowing right now is uranium. All they need to do is flip that switch, and holy smokes, what would happen to the West in the United States nuclear reactors? Game over. So let me explain what they just discovered. Normally, when a deposit is found, they'll use what's known as a spectrometer, which is a tool that measures the radiation of the uranium. It'll beep. Normally in Africa and Russia and other spots, it'll measure about 0.2%. In the Athabasca Basin in Canada, normally it's 2%, not 0.2, but 2%. Now, what F3 just found was a deposit that registered off the freaking charts. 59.2%. That's an astonishing discovery. Now, on this news over the past few weeks, their market cap went from $50 million to over $100 million. Now they're drilling 20 additional holes in this same spot to confirm just how big this deposit area is. So just so we're clear here, this is a ground floor opportunity before this stock explodes. Now, here's where we are in the life cycle of a mining operation. They just hit pay dirt. And now the real fun begins because they're actively drilling some of the highest quality uranium ever discovered. And I don't mean they're just drilling every few months or every few weeks. No, they are drilling every day in this region right now, around the clock. That's why I'm super excited about this. Again, very, very bullish on this company if you can't tell. So just look at the other uranium discoveries that were considered fantastic, and you can see how this discovery of 59.2% compares to some of the other big uranium deposit discoveries that sent other companies' stocks skyrocketing. Now put that in perspective of what they just discovered. You can see how this one is off the charts. So F3, by the way, is the third company from this same mining team. The first two companies, huge success stories. Again, their stock ticker is FUUFF. Okay, I'm going to put it up here on the screen. It's FUUFF. Go and do your own due diligence on it. Plug that into Yahoo Finance or wherever you do your research and take a look at their chart. As of this publication, their stock right now is trading at 27 cents a share, and they're up over 149% over the past year. 149% over this past year. Just look at this amazing chart. You know, when the masses of retail traders suddenly discover this news, their stock could explode even more. So this is really a ground floor opportunity right now. And just for some industry perspective right now, uranium prices are up 40% this year. Think of how many tens of thousands of people work in the oil and gas industry. There are only 271 people working in the uranium industry in the United States right now. We've outsourced all of it to China and Russia and Kazakhstan. We desperately need producers like F3 Uranium to be doing this kind of work right now. Now that Germany is going back to nuclear power, Japan is going back to nuclear power, and the United States is going to absolutely need it because of what the Biden administration has done to our energy sector, get ready for the uranium industry to explode. Even in Germany, which shut them all down, is now going back to clean energy and nuclear because they have to. They know that they need to. They have to, given Europe's impending energy crisis. I'll have links to their website so you can do your own due diligence on this company. Look at this new uranium discovery that they just made. Look at the big institutional investors like Eric Sprott, who just invested millions into this company. Again, this is a small market cap company that probably won't be small for much longer. Again, I'll have links to their website in the description. Check them out. I'm a big believer in investing in commodities and the companies that bring these resources out of the ground. I'm a big believer in these guys because they literally fuel our way of life. You want to have food on your table? These are the people that help put it there. And I like getting in early before millions of other investors know about it. So you guys are hearing about it before everyone else. So check them out. We'll see you next time, everyone.